Greetings and hello. Welcome to 13 Days of Halloween, Day 4. Your host, the Nat Chan. We're reading stories from More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, collected by Alvin Schwartz. The Little Black Dog. Billy Mansfield said that a little black dog followed him everywhere he went. But when he was the only one who saw it, people began to think it was a little crazy. To drive the dog away, Billy always hollered at it, threw rocks at it, but the dog always came back. The first time Billy saw that dog was the day he fought Silas Burton. Billy was just a young man then, but the Burtons and Billy's families had been feuding for years. When Billy saw Silas riding towards him, he went for his gun and Burton went for his. Billy fired first. He hit Burton in the back, knocking him from his horse. Burton's horse ran off, and his gun fell where he couldn't reach it. He lay there on the ground, pleading with Billy not to kill him, but Billy killed him anyway. Burton's little black dog was with him when he was shot. The dog kept licking Burton's face and barking and snarling at Billy. In his anger, Billy killed the dog, too. There wasn't much law enforcement in those days, so Billy wasn't arrested. But all that night he heard Burton's dog outside his cabin, scratching on his door and barking to be let in. "I'm imagining this," Billy said to himself. "I shot that dog. It's dead." But the next morning Billy saw the dog. It was waiting for him outside. From then on there was not a day he didn't see it, and there wasn't a night he didn't hear it scratching on the door and barking. From then on, Billy was always finding black dog hairs on the sofa, on the floor, in his bed, even his food. And the house and the yard stank of dog, according to him. Whenever somebody told him there wasn't any dog to see, he'd say, "Maybe you don't see it, but I do, and I'm not crazier than you." Things went on like that for many years. Then one morning in the middle of winter, the neighbors didn't see any smoke rise from Billy's chimney. They went over to check on him, but he wasn't there. A day or so later, they found his body lying in the snow in a field behind his cabin. Billy had plenty of enemies, and at first it seemed like somebody might have killed him, but there wasn't any marks on his body. No sign of murder. There weren't any footprints out there either, except for Billy's. The doctor said Billy probably died of old age, but there was something odd about his death. When the neighbors found Billy, there were black dog hairs on his clothes. There were even a few on his face. It smelled like a dog had been out there. Yet no one had seen a dog anywhere. Ever. Clickety-clink. An old lady got sick and died. She had no family and no close friends, so the neighbors got a grave digger to dig a grave for her. They had a coffin made, and they placed it in her living room. As was the tradition, they washed her body and dressed her up in her best clothes and put her in the coffin. When she died, her eyes were wide open, staring at everything and seeing nothing. The neighbors found 2 old silver dollars on her dresser, and they put them on her eyelids to keep them closed. They lit candles and sat up with her so that she would not be too lonely on that first night that she was dead. The next morning, a preacher came and said a prayer for her. Then everybody went home. Later, the gravedigger arrived to take her to the cemetery and bury her. He stared at the silver dollars on her eyes, and he picked them up. How shiny and smooth they were. How thick and heavy. "They're beautiful," he thought. "Just beautiful." He looked at the dead woman with her eyes wide open. He felt she was staring at him, watching him hold her coins. It gave him a creeped out feeling. He put the coins back on those eyes of hers to keep them closed. But before he knew it, his hands reached out again and grabbed those coins and stuck them in his pocket. Then he grabbed a hammer and quickly nailed the lid of the coffin shut. "Now you can't see anything," he said to her. Then he took her out to the cemetery and buried her as fast as he could. When the gravedigger got home, he put the 2 silver dollars in a tin box and shook it. The coins made a cheerful rattling sound, but the gravedigger wasn't feeling cheerful. couldn't ever forget those eyes looking at him. When it got dark, a storm came up and the wind started blowing. It blew all around the house. It came in through the cracks and around the windows and down the chimney. The fire flared and flickered. The gravedigger threw some fresh wood on the fire, got into bed, and pulled the blankets up to his chin. The wind kept blowing, and the fire flared and flickered and cast evil-looking shadows on the walls. The gravedigger lay there thinking about the dead woman's eyes staring at him. The wind blew stronger and louder, and the fire flared and flickered harder, and popped and snapped, and he got more and more scared. Suddenly he heard another sound. Clickety-clink. Clickety-clink, it went. Clickety-clink. Clickety-clink. It was the silver dollars rattling in the tin box. "Hey!" the gravedigger shouted. "Who's taking my money?" But all he heard was the wind blowing, and the flames flaring and flickering and snapping and popping, and the coins going clickety-clink, clickety-clink. He leapt out of bed and chained up the door. Then he hurried back, but his head had barely touched the pillow when he heard clickety-clink, clinkety-clink. Then he heard something way off in the distance. It was a voice crying, "Where's my money? Who's got my money? Who? Who?" And the wind blew, and the fire flared and snapped and popped, and the money went clinkety-clink, clinkety-clink. The gravedigger was really scared. He got out of bed again and piled all the furniture against the door, and he put a heavy iron skillet over the tin box. Then he jumped back into bed and covered his head with the blankets. But the money rattled louder than ever, and the voice way off cried, "Give me my money! Who's got my money? Who? Who?" And the wind blew, and the fire flared and flickered and popped, and the gravedigger shivered and shook and cried, "Oh, Lordy Lord!" Suddenly, the front door flew open, and in walked the ghost of the dead woman with her eyes wide open, staring at everything and seeing nothing, and the wind blew harder. The money went clickety-clink, clinkety-clink, and the fire flared and flickered and snapped and popped, and the ghost of the dead woman cried, "Oh, where's my money? Who's got my money? Who? Who?" And the gravedigger moaned, "Oh, Lordy Lord!" The ghost could hear her money going clickety-clink, clinkety-clink in the tin box, but her dead eyes couldn't see the box, so she reached out with her arms and tried to find it. The wind continued to blow, and the fire continued to pop and snap, and the gravedigger shivered and shook and moaned, "Oh, Lordy Lord!" And the woman cried, "Give me my money! Who's got my money? Who? Who?" Suddenly the blankets moved back with a violent pull. "You've got it!" Thank you so much for joining me for day 4 of 13 days of Halloween. Hope you're not too scared, and that we'll see you come back for day 5. Thanks again.